several states decided they wanted to legalize marijuana in one form or another. Washington, D.C. decriminalized psychedelic plants. To me, that is a huge win that D.C. themselves did that. And the state of Oregon actually decriminalized all drugs: heroin, cocaine, ecstasy, DMT, mushrooms, LSD, wheat, everything, as well as legalizing psychedelic assisted psychotherapy for psilocybin, which I thought was fantastic. A lot of people don't know enough about the drug war to say that they are in favor of legalizing cocaine or heroin or anything like that. And I've never done those substances, and I don't think they're necessarily good to do. But to criminalize having them only puts disenfranchised people in jail. I think that obviously you still need to prosecute the dealers and everything like that, but basically by making that not a crime, it will reduce drug addiction and related deaths and related societal problems. We saw that play out in Portugal when they decriminalized all drugs in, I believe it was 2000. That's a fascinating case study. I would consider it to be a good precedent for the world, a good example for the world, for them to advance drug decriminalization, which will also decrease like violence, for example, in Mexico. It will reduce the spread and financial resources of like cartels in Central and South America, who, and especially in Mexico, who have infinite resources that literally like they can pay off either like the federales or the military. I know that they had a battle against one another at some point as a result of this. But literally, if you decriminalize drugs in the United States, if you were to legalize drugs in the United States, people would have access to them by legal means. In this hypothetical scenario, that's not how it is in Oregon right now, but if people had access to it through legal means, there would be no business to be made in smuggling it from other countries, and therefore, not the violence associated with that. So, we've all seen Narcos. We know what it's like when drugs are being smuggled into other countries and people are making a large-scale profit off of that. Granted, do you do you want pharmaceutical grade cocaine or something? A lot of people here watching it are probably saying, yes, we do. But either way, money is going to be in the hands of a cartel, whether it's the Sinaloa cartel or the Medellin cartel or the pharmaceutical lobby of the United States, Purdue, and groups like that. But I think it would be much safer if we were to move in that direction of decriminalizing. With the psychedelics in particular, studies have been published recently that indicate that psychedelic mushrooms are better than any like anxiety or depression medication, SSRIs, stuff like that, in terms of treating depression. I think it was actually 3 times greater. Yeah, that's substantially better. That is substantially better than SSRIs or antidepressants or anxiolytic medication. And I've been saying that for years. Obviously, I made all these videos talking about psychedelics and advocating for them. And it's good to see that, years of fighting, not just from myself, but from thousands of others like me, from thousands of people that I know online and personally. It's great to see that the work being done is finally paying off. And so congratulations to Washington, D.C. Congratulations to Oregon. Congratulations to like New Jersey for legalizing weed and stuff. We're really coming into the 21st century now. And I think more and more people, when they see what it can do for veterans and rape victims and people with PTSD and trauma and people who need to reevaluate their lives in some manner or another, when all of these people start utilizing psychedelics, I think we're going to see a more awakened society. Now, for years, I thought that, and I'm going off on a tangent here, but for years, I thought that by taking psychedelics, all of society would be healed and would move forward in peace and prosperity. I know Timothy Leary had a similar vision and stuff like that, but there's some people that I don't think it would help. Some people, their ego is too strong. The ego-death experience might not necessarily result in them realizing that they are one group of brothers and sisters with all of mankind and everything on this planet. Some people are never going to have that realization. just as a result of psychedelic use, or even as a result of therapy or psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy. Again, I think I showed this cartoon before during my conversation with Mark Marcel, but he did a video of Terrence McKenna giving Donald Trump DMT, and Donald Trump still wants to build the wall. And I think that that's valid. Some people are just never going to change who they are. And I think psychedelics can help a lot of people, but I don't think that they're going to 100% totally rewrite society. And I'm sorry if I gave anybody that impression before, and if anybody believed that as a result of anything that I've ever made. I wrote a book actually called On Culture, Small Minds, Big Business, and the Psychedelic Solution several years ago. That's available on Amazon. And I do basically advance that theory that psychedelics could serve as a way of altering the social framework of society in such a manner that we would be able to live in a utopia. But I wrote that before the Trump presidency. I wrote that before coronavirus. I wrote that before increased tensions worldwide. And I don't know that that would be a solution, but I do think it's a start. If the majority shifts, if the paradigm shifts, if we were to just exalt in how glorious it is to be alive in the world, and particularly in the United States of America, enjoy nature, enjoy our time here on this planet before we leave our current state of consciousness. I think if we could all just realize that it's just to enjoy, we would see major changes in the world. Would it be enough to actually shift the direction of the status quo of the world? That I don't know. I mean, as I'll tell you more about in the future, and I have told you about a little bit in the past too, I think that a lot of higher ups, a lot of the elites have been taking psychedelics for a very long time. There may be some gaps there. It may slant one more towards one political party or another. But I think that the elite are definitely aware of psychedelics. And I have some evidence for that, and I'm going to show you guys some evidence for that in the near future. I have firsthand witnessed some of this evidence, and I've seen photos and stuff of other pieces of evidence of that. I'm not going to get into great detail on that, but it's like early on in the American history, like George Washington days. But I do think that there's enough evidence that similar types of rituals may be going on to this day, and yet I guess what I'm trying to say is they're still manipulating society in a generally negative way, in spite of the fact that they've taken these substances. Obviously, the CIA involvement is government involvement in the 1960s, in the 1950s. There's the JFK LSD stuff. Let me show you a clip of that.
According to John F. Kennedy, a biography, JFK suffered from chronic back pain and Addison's disease. As a result, his friend and purported lover, Mary Pinchot Meyer, introduced him to medical marijuana, which he smoked in the White House, smoking 2 of the 3 joints she had brought him, turning down the final one, saying, "Suppose the Russians did something right now." Harvard psychologist Timothy Leary's autobiography, Flashbacks, claims that weed wasn't the only thing Meyer introduced the president to, implying that they may have experimented with LSD together.
And I think that there was a lot more involvement as well. And again, the stuff that I'm going to show you evidence of. But I think that the other people who kind of architect or socially engineer society to some degree, which has been shown in The Social Dilemma and recently on podcasts, all those Silicon Valley people, many of them are microdosing, many of them are taking psychedelics, and yet they still think that it is advantageous, maybe just from a business standpoint, but definitely, financially, but maybe societally as well, is to advance an agenda in a particular direction and give people a feedback loop through social media, which has generally negative consequences in the world. Many of those people that are taking psychedelics, Silicon Valley is very deep into psychedelics, and yet they're still manipulating society in that way. So again, I don't know that psychedelics are going to save the world like I once thought that they probably were. Again, I think it's a step in the right direction. I think that people could be more compassionate, more loving towards one another, and less trapped in their ego and less trapped in everything in the world is about me. And I think that's important. But will they create a utopia? I don't think they, in and of themselves, can create a utopia, especially in a single generation or anything like that. I think that, like Leary did say, or maybe I'm putting words into his mouth, I'm not certain, but from what I can remember, he basically said it would take a couple of generations from the point of the acceptance of psychedelics to the point where the world had shifted in that meaningful and positive direction. Now, we saw the psychedelic movement of the 1960s, and we are, a couple generations away from that at this point, and things obviously haven't shifted in this major positive direction, but that may be because the psychedelic movement was squashed by the government, the Nixon administration in particular. Had that not been the case, had Just Say No never happened, DARE never happened, the Reagan administration never happened, maybe we would be there. But I do think legalizing psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, decriminalizing plant medicines, it is a great move, and I'm glad that we did that in D.C. and in Oregon. And thank you to everybody that I know and anybody I don't know who was involved in getting those ballot initiatives passed. Hugely commendable, honestly.